Rejoice, ye penny-pinching nerds, rejoice! For this is a season unbound by our bank accounts, unfettered by fees. A legendary age of liberty. This is the Summer of Free! Hey guys, Peter Franson here from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions, continuing our celebration of the Summer of Free. Have you ever kind of like been in a situation where you get into a good conversation with somebody and you want to offer to buy them a book that might help them, you know, explore that issue more deeply or be useful to them? Or you just want to take them out to lunch or do something, express in some way some affection, some kindness to them that will help continue to develop a voice for good things in their life and represent Christ in their lives. There are all kinds of reasons that we might have to want to have a little extra money on hand, but I know that what it's like in those situations to kind of hesitate to take someone out to lunch or hesitate to offer to buy a book for somebody because you're thinking, I don't know if I really want to, honestly, if I really want to give money to that. I want to use my money for my things, the things that are fun for me and stuff. And so I think having a better handle on our resources and using our money more wisely and sparingly is just a great skill to develop, and that's a big part of what the Summer of Free is about. So in support of that kind of thinking about our money, I'm talking about free video games today. Now, often on the Summer of Free, you know, we'll find some free things that, you know, because they're created by somebody that's not a professional or that doesn't have a budget for what they're creating, that we kind of have to settle for a significantly lower quality in terms of presentation. But I've got some games for you today that, depending on what kind of gamer you are and depending on what your expectations are, I don't think you really have to sacrifice much at all, if anything. Now, they're not on the bleeding edge of you know, video game technology, but neither are they like, you know, really kind of old-looking retro type aesthetic looks that, you know, you're going to have to potentially go wince and just kind of deal with. No, these are really solid looking games. The first two are a little more on the retro-looking side, but they're really nice-looking retro in terms of their visual style. The first one's Pox Nora. Now, this one recently just came to PlayStation 4, but it's been on PC for a very long time. It's a free-to-play game that, yes, you can spend money on, but if you're just going to play the single-player experience, if you're just going to play the campaigns, from what I've been researching on this, all of that is unlockable. You don't have to worry about, you know, a temptation to spend money. That's only really going to come into play if you try to be competitive in PvP. So if you go into it with a single player experience in mind, Pox Nora looks like a great avenue for, you know, experiencing some fun video game goodness for free. It's a blend of turn-based strategy and collectible card games. So it's like Magic the Gathering and a kind of digital board game at the same time, or like Final Fantasy Tactics, you know, you might compare it to, where your deck that you customize and create represents your army, your units that you can put out on the field of battle. Cards and multiple single-player campaigns are all unlockable just through gameplay, and there's an in-game currency that you gain as you play the game, and you can use that to unlock cards and single-player campaigns. But again, as I said, being competitive in PvP will likely tempt you to spend money in this one, so approach this one as a single-player game only for free play. Now, by modern standards, the graphics are technically dated. The graphics here, you know, you might say, oh, they look like Super NES. Well, I think that's if we're viewing the Super NES graphics through rose-colored lenses. And the art design and the use of the animated sprites still creates this colorful and thematic presentation of a fantasy world. I think this game looks really nice. As I said, it recently became available on PS4. It's existed a long time on PC. The UI is reportedly much better when played on PC. So I haven't really checked it out until it came on PS4. I was waiting to see what the reviews would say about the user interface. They've not been very good, so it's probably best to stick to PC on this one unless you really want to just play console games and you've got a PS4. So anyway, that's Pox Nora, which you can get at poxnora.com. POXNORA.com. All right, next up, I want to thank Francisco Ruiz on the Christian Geek Central forums who pointed this out to me, and then I forgot all about it and discovered it again when I was reading an issue of PC Gamer recently. But the original StarCraft is getting a re-release with some fancy new graphics soon, but in the meantime, they are offering up now the original StarCraft, including the Brood War expansion pack, for free at StarCraft.com. It's also been updated with a patch to make it easier to play on modern systems. It's got over 50 single-player missions. This is a celebrated game that can easily fill up a series of penny-pinching days or weeks. I myself am, just testing the waters in the last, few months, in the last few months with RTS games. It's not been a genre that I've typically been into because it makes me nervous that I can't pause and think, like in, say, Neverwinter Nights or Baldur's Gate. You can pause, but I mean, you don't have access to all your tactical options while you're paused. You just got a big old, menu popped up there. But I am getting my toe in the water with Dungeons 2 on the PlayStation 4, and I have started trying out StarCraft. I'm like, well, this is one of the first, RTSs. It was, or at least it was certainly something that changed the landscape of the RTS, and so this ought to be a good starting point for me to kind of discover the meat of the genre. So I have been checking it out and enjoying what I've been experiencing just at the very beginnings of the game so far. So that's a really cool thing on offer at StarCraft.com. Next up is Cayne, and that's spelled C-A-Y-N-E. And you can get this at GOG.com. If you go to GOG.com and just put C-A-Y-N-E in the search field for games, you'll come up to Cayne, and this one is free. It is the sequel to a game called Stasis, which I don't really know very much about, but well, I shouldn't say it's a sequel. It's in the same universe as Stasis, so it doesn't require that you have played Stasis, which is a paid game. But this one is entirely free, and the description reads, "In this grim return to the Stasis universe, expectant protagonist Hadley wakes up in a facility." So she's pregnant, in other words, and she's very pregnant. Where is she? Why is she there? And why do they want her baby? Help panicked and anxious Hadley find her feet and brave stomach-churning situations to break free by solving puzzles in this free horror adventure game. It's a free point-and-click isometric adventure game with a modern edge. It says a gritty experience awaits. Stasis was only the beginning of a much larger story. So anyway, it's a point-and-click adventure game, but definitely with kind of modern visual aesthetics. And if you watch the trailer for this one, oh man, like horror is right. This is like a sci-fi horror story that's really disturbing. I mean, already, when you've got like this pregnant protagonist who's very pregnant, like 8 or 9 months. I mean, she is ready to pop, I think. She's running around this nasty, dark sci-fi environment and being hunted by bizarre creatures that want her baby. I mean, the trailer was just like, this looks disturbing. So if you like point-and-click adventure games and you like that kind of sci-fi story that is potentially disturbing and very dark, then Cayne might be a very cool option for you. And for last, I saved the one that has probably the highest production value on this list, and I want to circle back to StarCraft now and talk about StarCraft 2 Starter Edition. Now, normally I would be like, no, I'm not talking about demos in the summer of free because they are just there to try and get you to buy something. But the cool thing is that the StarCraft 2 Starter Edition gives you access to the Blizzard Arcade or the StarCraft 2 Arcade. If you use either of those search terms on like YouTube, you can get a bunch of results of games that you can find out about. There are all these user-created games that you can play if you have well, historically, if you had StarCraft 2. But now they've created this StarCraft 2 Starter Edition, and that gives you the engine for to download and play all of these user-created games without spending a dime. You do not have to have the full version of StarCraft 2 in order to play all of these games that are available on the Blizzard Arcade. So they're all user-rated, and so you can kind of sift through a little bit, what some of the crap and some of the stuff that's really kind of risen up to the top and been celebrated by a lot of gamers and enjoyed by a lot of gamers. There are action games, there are RPGs, there are strategy games, tower defense, and you know, a few genres that I'm like, really? You use the StarCraft 2 engine to make this? You know, so a few interesting surprises too. There's a Diablo, just a couple highlights that popped out to me. Diablo Mortal Shroud is basically a port of the original Diablo 1 into the StarCraft 2 engine. So that looks really cool. And then another one is StarCraft Universe. This is a big ol' RPG based in the StarCraft universe. So maybe you're interested in the StarCraft universe, but you don't really want to play an RTS game. Well, StarCraft Universe is an RPG set in that universe. So anyway, some really cool looking stuff as I've browsed through. I mean, that's so. In addition to just a couple of recommendations of things you might check out, there's a whole rabbit hole that you can chase down, spend a weekend, sifting through and looking at all the different options that are available to you using the Blizzard Arcade. So anyway, where you want to go to get that is us.battle.net/arcade. us.battle.net/arcade. And one thing that I would mention is it's not super intuitive how you get access to the arcade. Once you go there, you click on like Play Now, and then they'll let you go through these steps to kind of download StarCraft 2 Starter Edition. I did it out of order. I downloaded StarCraft Starter Edition 2 Starter Edition first, and then I wasn't sure how to get to the arcade. You actually do have to launch StarCraft 2, and the first time I launched it, I even had to like kind of start a StarCraft 2 game and just kind of get into it and then exit out. After I'd done that, it takes me to the main menu, and then I look and like, okay, there's the option for the arcade. Oh, there's the option for browse. So it's a little unintuitive, so I just kind of expect that going in. But I mean, once you figure out where the arcade is in StarCraft 2, you'll be off to the races. So again, those options are Pox Nora at poxnora.com, and then the original StarCraft, which you can get at starcraft.com, and Cayne, spelled C-A-Y-N-E, at GOG.com, G-O-G.com, and then StarCraft 2 Starter Edition, which gives you access to the Blizzard/StarCraft 2 arcade, which you can get at us.battle.net/arcade. So hopefully that'll give you some options to maybe cut back on spending for a little while, rein in your finances, get a little bit of control of those so that you have some stored up that you can more easily use to bless and benefit others. Stay tuned for more Summer of Free in the coming weeks, and in the meantime, I hope you'll join me over at christiangeekcentral.com as we continue to geek out and seek the truth.